Another area in the book, we have a chapter on courage. I call it carefrontation. Now, look, people of love and giving are not always nice. Don't look for someone who's always going to be just, la la la, as though there isn't a lot of self-destructive and destructive behavior in the world. I mean, I'm a frank realist. You ask me, I'm going to tell you, look at this world we live in. It's full of group hatreds, individual hatreds. You go from 9/11 to Virginia Tech, and we realize that this love of neighbor, this doing unto others, sometimes is a pretty thin veneer, that thin, over a seething, boiling cauldron of conflict and hatred. And it's a big problem. I used to be a friend of Mr. Rogers, who lived in Pittsburgh. Most of these younger folks only know him from the occasional TV rerun, but when I was growing up, we actually watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He was actually a Presbyterian minister, and he wanted to model sort of positive, considerate, respectful behavior for kids on TV. He did it all his life. He did it pretty well. He died about 4 years ago. But before he died, he was interviewed by a reporter for the New York Times who asked him, Mr. Rogers, what should parents tell their children? He paused, and he said, tell the children to keep their eyes on the helpers. Because, however bad the world gets, the only hope for the future of the world is this kind of love for a shared humanity. Getting beyond the conflicts, the in-group, out-group stuff, and loving people. Loving all people without exception, even when you don't approve of what they do or say. And that's important. That's why I call it carefrontation, as opposed to confrontation. Now, carefrontation is really important. You got to know how to do it. You have to practice it. You have to figure out how to effectively help people correct their behavior and even correct your own behavior, but without getting into a lot of hatred and animosity and hopeless conflict. So, under carefrontation, we talk a lot about styles of interaction. I don't know if some of the viewers will ever have read The Road Less Traveled. Probably not. M. Scott Peck. But he talked about the risk of confrontation and all the important techniques going into a relationship, an encounter with someone, and being unconditional. That doesn't mean you don't assess them or make evaluations of their behavior, but it does mean that you work very hard emotionally and you train yourself to control hostility and to affirm them, even when you are being sometimes quite frank about their behavior. So I practice the art of carefrontation, but I try to make people feel good about it. I think in this medical school, I chaired the committee on students for 12 years. We probably threw out 30 students for academic or professional reasons. And I can tell you that I was able to do it in such a way that most of them, not all of them, but most of them felt good about what they were doing. Here's a practical consideration. Never no without a yes. Very practical, very real. Hey, it's probably not a good idea for you to be a doctor. You don't seem to be cut out for it. But guess what? Why don't you pursue this PhD in microbiology and you can help the world through research and curing some disease? I always try practically to provide a yes whenever I provide a no. And I think that helps people a lot.